Just looking up Jiu-Jitsu. It's the no IBJJF World No Gi Jiu-Jitsu Championships today, and tomorrow and the next day. And one of my teammates, Deep Water Performance, Ben Smith, is competing today, and another one, Aiden, is competing tomorrow. So I've got it running down here. Ben is on in an hour.
You're all over it, John.
So good luck, Ben Smith. Person who murders me regularly in the gym. And how are you today, Dan?
Good, thanks, John. Yourself, mate?
Absolutely fantastic. Big Bash League started.
Yeah, Big Bash League got underway last night, John. The Brisbane Heat thrashed the Melbourne Stars by 103 runs.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Colin Munro, 99 not out for the Heat. Very good performance from him. Usman Khawaja and Marnus Labuschagne also turned out for the Heat. Khawaja made 28, Labuschagne made 30. I mean, not setting the world on fire, but nothing to be sneezed at in a 2020. So they made 3 for 214 from the 20. And then the Stars rolled in just 15.1 overs for 111, John. The Big Show made 23. Marcus Stoinis also turned out for the Stars, but he only made 2, John. So
yeah, it's
a disappointing showing from him. Well done to the Heat, getting their campaign off to a really strong start, John.
The players are already trying to reduce the season. The season's only 5 weeks long. We've discussed it before that there's probably too many games now. But the players are already talking about reducing the season. Which is pretty funny. It's been one game, guys. How tired can you be?
I don't think they've already. I mean, they fell into that trap of making the season too long to make more money, and then they realised, well, that doesn't work. Going for the quantity over quality never works.
Yeah.
So now they have reduced the length of the season. Now they want to reduce it even more. I mean, come on, guys. You get paid good money here. A big paycheck with that comes, a level of responsibility, and to have an even shorter tournament than what's already there. I mean,
do they all just play each other once or what? There's 44 matches in the regular season and eight teams. Is it 8 teams?
Yeah. So just trying to work it out. I'd say that's how they'd do it. They'd all play each other once.
8 teams, 44 matches in their regular season. So 7-8. What's 7/8?
56.
Yeah. Who knows how they do it? They must all play each other once.
Yeah, I'd say that's how it'd go, John. Yeah.
Over 5 weeks.
They'll all play each other once, and then they'll have their finals at the end of it.
Then they use a Final Four system, but with the addition of the eliminator. So 4th plays 5th. Then 1st place, 2nd, 3rd versus the winner. This is even more complicated than the women's one.
Yeah.
So, it's off to a good start anyway. I wasn't able to watch last night. I was at Kids' Christmas Carols, which was horrifying. But I'll definitely be watching tonight when the Sixers take on the Renegades. Sixers to defend their title, right? Perth won last year.
Yeah.
That's right,
Perth won last year.
They beat Brisbane Heat. It was Sydney Sixers the year before. Runners-up the year before. Okay. Man, I'm all over the shop. After that Kids' Christmas Carols last night, my brain has been ruined. It fell out my ear.
That's all right, John. Yeah, so as you said, the Sixers and the Renegades. Further matches to come. The Adelaide Strikers to take on the Brisbane Heat. The Melbourne Renegades to play the Perth Scorchers. And the Hobart Hurricanes to play the Sydney Sixers. So I think those are all the matches to take place between now and Monday.
Yeah, Melbourne Renegades are playing tonight and also on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround for them.
And Stars aren't playing. See, it's just such a weird... Come on, cricket, just make it easy. That's what I mean. That's why I don't know.
Well, there's just so much goes on, your franchise 2020 leagues. There's international cricket. They play meaningless 2020 series after a 6-week World Cup. It's very hard to keep track of it all.
New Zealand and Bangladesh are about to enter into a one-day series.
Isn't that's fascinating, isn't it? We're all really...
Sure, all New Zealand and Bangladesh fans are really pumped for that after their test series.
Yeah, we're just bracing ourselves for that, John.
Who won their test series? I doubt even any New Zealand or Bangladesh fans know.
Well, if we thought the Australia-India 2020 series was a who cares cup, I think that New Zealand-Bangladesh should be...
They finished their test series and they're going to go into a one-day series. Like, come on. Don't they know the Big Bash League is on? They all should just be calming down. Anyway, there's news, though.
Yes, there is news.
The Mitchell Johnson-Dave Warner feud continues, but more and more people are getting involved.
Yeah, including one Anthony Mundine, John.
Well, he's good friends with Dave Warner.
Yeah. Apparently, that came about because of obviously the pair were both very good friends of the late Philip Hughes.
Yeah.
And that's how... Mundine and Warner have formed a friendship.
No matter what you say about Anthony Mundine, you can't say that he's not loyal to his friends.
That's true, John. So the quotes from Mundine, I'll run through them, John. He spoke to AAP. He said, "It's a low act from Johnson. Things should be positive. Former teammates should stick together. It's un-Australian." End quote. You're right, John. Mundine, he is loyal to his friends. But he said he's talking about Mitchell Johnson. He says things should be positive. This is coming from the guy who used every trick in the book to sell his fights, John. Seriously,
boxing and cricket's different, though.
It's true.
And also, Anthony Mundine is not actually the most positive guy in the world. That guy takes any chance he can to pile onto rugby league.
Yeah, he's the first one to pile. He's piling on to Johnson here.
He's always the...
He'd be one of the first guys you'd ring if you're a journalist looking for a line out of him.
Yeah, and he spends his entire time railing against rugby league and calling them racist and stuff. Isn't that un-Australian?
Didn't he make up that there was a 42-man squad that didn't exist in 1999?
In a series that he wasn't picked for that didn't exist, yeah.
And he calls Mitchell Johnson un-Australian. And John, Brad Haddon has also criticised Mitchell Johnson over the column. He said Mitch's summary of it was a bit odd and left field. John, I think a problem is that people like Haddon and, I can't believe I'm saying this, Mundine in this context, they're only looking at it from one angle, John. They're only looking at it from that former player and his teammate point of view. There's different ways of looking at this scenario. And one thing that's really important in my mind is that you look at what's Mitchell Johnson doing? He's writing a newspaper column. What's his job? It's to sell newspapers. It's to entertain the readers. And he did that, John. I tell you what, I read the column, John. I read every word of it. I was glued to it. It was a gripping column. I mean, I don't know if Brad Haddon writes a cricket column, John. I have no idea. And if he did, do you think it'd be as entertaining as Mitchell Johnson's column?
Well, I doubt it, John. I don't know any ex-cricket players that write a newspaper column except Mitchell Johnson.
Exactly. And why do you know? Because of all the publicity this column's got.
So he's done his job perfectly. Like I said, I felt like it was a bit, I said the other day, like a couple of days ago, it was a bit mean. Like, ooh, it's a bit mean. But, yeah, whatevs, bro. Like, it's a column.
Yeah.
But, everybody's entitled to their opinion. The thing I like is all these people. I mean, Anthony, we always talk about these sports stars should stay in their lane. It chocks a little bit over the lines because he's out of his lane, not boxing or rugby league, but sport. So he's kind of staying in his lane. At least he's not talking about politics.
Yeah. What do these people want Mitchell Johnson to write, John? Do they want him to just write, this player batted well in his last game, or this player bowled well in his last game?
Yeah.
Like that, it was such an entertaining column, John. It was box office
But it was a bit
I read
mean.
every word.
It's just a bit mean.
Yeah, I know it was a bit mean. But, all right, he added a bit of salt and pepper, a bit of herb and spice with that line about the sandpaper.
It was hilarious, though.
But that was great for the reader, John. I read every word of it.
The one person who also hasn't addressed it is Dave Warner.
Yeah.
To
be fair, he has handled this well.
That's what he does. I'm sure people have called him for comments, and he's just
I mean, he knows the best way to respond is to respond with his bat.
Yeah.
And score big runs.
So he's going to do that against Pakistan, which is going to be an easy one.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's picked a good team to finish his Test career with, John. Against, I should say.
Going to see. He can respond with his bat. Get a couple of centuries in his retirement Test series and be like, all right, guys, see you later. Thanks, Mitchell Johnson.
And Brad Haddon said, I don't mind past players saying, okay, this is why I wouldn't have him in the team. This is what I look at. Come on, Brad, all right? His job's to entertain his readers, and he did that. John, this column was written last weekend, and it's Friday, and we're still talking about it.
That's what I mean. Other columns that would be like that, I don't know they exist. Maybe Brad Haddon has written a column like that. Maybe Brad this is the team I'll pick. Yeah, but I don't know it exists.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Sometimes you have to jazz it up a bit.
Yeah.
If you're on TV, you've got to jazz it up for the cameras. If you're a newspaper columnist, you got to jazz it up for the readers.
Got to make the clickbait, otherwise he won't get clicks.
He's in the entertainment business. Controversy sells, John. What?
Exactly, I'm fine with it. But yeah, I love that. And, Anthony Mundine getting involved drags it out for another week.
That's great. I think it's great. It's great. It gives us something to talk about.
Someone responds next week and it drags out to the Test series starts, on Boxing Day?
It starts on the 14th, so it starts, less than a week away, the first Test
so
against
keep dragging
Pakistan.
it out to it's another 6 days. That'll make, again, Mitchell, every time someone mentions it, Mitchell Johnson's column's getting ready. People are going what's Chock talking about? And searching for Mitchell Johnson's column. So he's done his job. He's done the clickbait and he's won.
That's right. I don't know, Mundine, I get it, John. He was in the whole game of, be controversial or sell your fight. And he did it very well. He's a very smart businessman.
This is your chief warning.
Oh. We're about to commence a test. So if you hear some sirens, that's just a test.
We don't need to stop the podcast.
No, it's just a test. They're just going to go whoop whoop, and then we, and then he's going to announce thanks for talking. Bit of colour into the podcast.
Just like Mitchell Johnson's.
Yeah. We've started a fire to go viral. Anyway, so we can move right along to Steve Smith. Won't be following Warner into Test retirement. We already kind of knew that.
His manager just came out and sort of put that to bed, John. It was just, I think it was more in response. During the Ashes, Michael Vaughan said that he'd heard a whisper that Smith might be retiring at the end of the Ashes. So I think the Steve Smith's manager just wanted to...
Can you hear it, John Manners? Is it produced on? Yeah. Cut.
Might have to cut for a bit.
And we're back talking about Steve Smith. Just had a little bit of an interruption with some whoop-whoops and some wheat and some evacuates as directed where none of us evacuated. So in the actual fire, though, I'm going to do George Costanza that stuff and throw everyone out of my way. But Steve Smith is not going into Test retirement. His manager says, I don't think anybody actually really expected him to be honest.
No, I said it before our little interruption there, John. It was just Michael Vaughan came out during the Ashes and said that he'd heard whispers that Steve Smith was going to pull the pin at the end of the Ashes series, but it seems like that's not going to happen, John. He's going to continue. I said before about Steve Smith, I think now is the time for him to give up the international ODIs and the international T20s. But certainly at the age of 34, with his ability, he can certainly play for another possibly 3 or 4 more years as a Test batsman, John.
Yeah. Into the next World Cup, possibly.
Yeah, John, of players who have played more than 20 Test matches, only Don Bradman has a higher average than Smith of 99.94. Yeah. So there you go. That just shows the calibre of him as a Test batsman, and it's good news that he's not going anywhere.
He just needs to find some form because he's been a little bit down on form, not in bad form, but he's been a little bit down on form. And maybe this, been saying it for a while, like maybe this Pakistan test series can help him get his form back.
Yeah, that line I just said. So that's Australian players who played more than 20 tests.
Australian male players?
Yeah, but sorry. Thank you for pointing it out, John. Australian male players. We should make that clear for the PC police out there. So of Australian players who played 20 or more tests, only Don Bradman has a better average. Of course, 99.94 for Bradman. Smith averages 58.61. So even with this dip in form that he has had, John, he averages just 34 in 9 test matches since the end of the last cricket summer in Australia. Even with that dip in form, he's still averaging 58.61. Yeah. So that just shows the calibre of Steve Smith as a batsman.
Hopefully this summer of cricket can get his form back, and then he can play through next couple of years. And
he's gonna start the Big Bash season with the Sixers, and then he'll tonight, and then he'll quickly turn his attention to that Test series against Pakistan.
Yeah. And then there's some weird South Africa move. So what is this for the World Cup?
Yeah. So. This one's an interesting one, John. So, South Africa are set to tour New Zealand in February for a test series. But South Africa have decided that they're going to send a second-string team to New Zealand because they want to prioritise their 2020 league, the SA20, over that 2-test tour in New Zealand in February. So any players with deals to play in the SA20 will be ordered to stay home and play in that instead of touring. And that's a move that's going to impact or affect 9 of South Africa's incumbent Test 11. So now we're getting to a point where a country like South Africa, a proud Test cricket nation, are prioritising their domestic 2020 league over a Test series. Could this just be the start of this sort of a movement, John, of teams not sending their best team for test tours and prioritising a domestic 2020 league? Oh,
God. Yes, Warden. Thank you. I like that because we've talked about it before many times. There's too many internationals. I know cricket is mainly an international game, but I kind of wish a lot of the international teams, the country teams, would force their players to stay and play domestically because it helped. Because what that's actually going to do is that Test series obviously will be way worse than it could be, so less people will watch it. Mm-hmm. So it will go back to that whole TV ratings things we've spoken about many times, which will mean because those people are watching it, hopefully they'll put on less internationals.
Yeah. That's right. It's just for a Test series to be sort of, for them to just sort of snub their nose at a Test series, but I mean, it's only a 2-test series.
They're trying to build their domestic T20 because, T20...
and that's where the money is for them.
Exactly. So domestic T20s give localised money, into your economy, everything like that. It's better for the country. And then, as I said, hopefully it starts to reduce because this kind of thing happens more and it reduces the number of internationals.
And this is the problem, John. It seems like now the only countries that draw crowds to test matches are Australia and England.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, you watch a test match that's in New Zealand, there's nobody in the crowd, John. Test match in South Africa, you watch it on TV, there's 2 people in the crowd. It's like a Sheffield Shield game. Even in India, John, they only turn up to the 2020s and the ODIs. They don't even go to test matches over there with that population over there. So we're getting to a point now where Australia and England are the only 2 countries who are taking Test cricket seriously.
I think so, yeah, and that's what I mean. Because it's all about the internationals, right? That's a test. There are no domestic Test series competitions.
No.
Yeah, but I think the flooded international scheduling, where straight after a World Cup you have every single, like the other teams in the World Cup, I saw there's passings of a bunch of the other teams in the World Cup have all also gone to do with test and one-day series and stuff in other countries. It's like the 10 teams in the World Cup split off into their own little splinter factions and made a bunch of test series, and that just speaks volumes. Like straight after the World Cup, you got a whole bunch of other internationals. And then you look at that T20, international T20 from Australia, and it became the third string Australian team. And like I said, hopefully that, because then less people will watch it, they'll fix that the flooding of international matches. So I like it. I don't know if that's South Africa's motivation, but I like the fact that South Africa are doing it because it will have a follow-on effect in the rest of internationals.
Is there potential for 20, 30 years down the track, John, for the Ashes to be the only test series that's played? The way it's going with 2020 leagues being prioritised, these, again, countries like South Africa, New Zealand, West Indies, Bangladesh, it seems as though the incentives for them holding test series are becoming less and less as time goes on.
I think it's because of the flooding of the amount of internationals.
Yeah.
And so if they reduce the number of internationals and test series become a little bit better, they can have one lot of test series for all the major teams every year. But the problem is like so many test series, one ODI series, T20 series, domestic competitions and all that kind of thing that there's too much. And so it's like if you have a choice, it doesn't matter what the sport is, no one wants to watch 52 weeks of it, except for MMA. Except for UFC, actually, specifically UFC. Only UFC has a weekly event, But most people, so, you have the hardcore people, we always talk about hardcore who will watch everything, the ones that will watch nothing and the ones in between. The ones in between don't watch any UFC fight nights. Doesn't matter who's on it, because they only watch those numbered pay-per-views with major events, And that's what cricket is like. Cricket has way too much of that group that no one will watch just because there's too much of it. So all of those middle group, there's too many people in the middle group, and there's too much for them to miss out on in cricket. So like I said, I like it.
And that's the West Indies are coming out for a test series later on in the summer, John. They came out last summer as well, and they're coming again this summer.
No one wants to watch them. They haven't been good for years. So
Pat Cummins and Steve Smith, they're not happy about South Africa's decision there, John.
They should be happy with it.
But cricket, they need a wake-up call in this area. The scheduling, there's too many games on, John.
Exactly. That's the end of cricket for the week. We'll bring you more updates for the Big Bash League as we progress. And so next week that Pakistan Test series starts. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully Steve Smith and Dave Warner go well, in my mind. Onto Rugby League, and the Bulldogs are having some issues with some of their signings. Most importantly, Conor Tracey, who came over injured, came from the Sharks. And the injury, Bulldogs were aware of it, but now the injury is much worse than originally thought, and he'll be out for the first 6 weeks of the comp.
It's not ideal, John. After you have a season like the Bulldogs had this year, finishing third last, when a lot of people were expecting them to finish, about 10th, 11th, that region. So they had an underachieving season. They've again gone on the rebuild recruitment drive and bought a whole bunch of fringe players to try and address the issue. A lot of question marks about the attitude of a lot of players. And so when you're doing that, the last thing you need is this sort of an injury setback to Conor Tracey, not. John. They needed all hands on deck to start the season. They needed to get everyone right and have a full squad of players to pick from. It just sets you back right from the start, these injuries that happen in the pre-season. So anyway, what can you do, John? Apparently he got injured I think it was in his last training session for the Sharks. He got injured. Before even joining the Bulldogs, I guess you're not going to not sign a player just because he's got an injury on his last day of training.
I think they should, if what is it called? The severity of the injury wasn't clearly communicated.
Yes.
Then the Sharks kind of have a lot to answer for. because it's only like they knew I know they knew he was injured. But now it's only just come out like yesterday that, it's way worse than I thought. And 6 weeks is a massive... That means he's injured now, can't train up until 6 weeks into the season. That's a quarter of the season gone. He was going to be one of the players that was in the squad, like in the top 17.
Yeah.
He was actually like, probably the second or third best signing they'd had because he's a good young player.
He's played in every position in the backs in his 66 game NRL career.
Yeah.
So that just shows his versatility. What can you do, John? They've signed him. They've got to live with it. They've got to get him right. Hopefully he gets back on the park as soon as possible. They need him. They need all hands on deck, John, after a terrible 2023.
It's just very bad that it's like, happened this way. But, we'll see how the Bulldogs go. They've got a bunch of more signings to happen, apparently, as well. But on with their signings, Cameron Ciraldo saying he won't poach Jerome Luai.
Yeah, so he's come out and said that Ciraldo's come out and said that he'd only be interested in signing Luai if Luai declared that he was leaving Penrith and wanted to move elsewhere. I think that's because, Ciraldo used to be an assistant coach at Penrith, and he doesn't
poached a whole bunch of their players.
Yeah, so, and I mean, Ciraldo's job now is he's the Bulldogs coach now, okay? This agreement that he had with Penrith when he was the assistant coach, I won't poach your players. No, enough of that. You're the Bulldogs coach. Your job is to assemble the best squad possible for the Bulldogs to have as good a results as they can have next year.
I would hope that he doesn't buy more Panthers players. I said it before, I'm not liking the way that the Bulldogs are just buying a whole bunch of Penrith players.
How does he explain that one away? No, we won't poach Luai, but he's signed all these other Penrith
like
players.
Stephen Crichton and who else? Cacao. There's a couple of others in there, Matt Burton. Matt Burton went there because Ciraldo was going there. But I still don't like it. I don't like when one team buys a bunch of players from one single other team just because that other team is successful. I got money on Jerome Luai going to the Tigers anyway.
This is the thing, John. Is this the old, are they pulling the wool over our eyes a bit in the sense that, Phil Gould works there, John. Something tells me he's pulling the strings with what Ciraldo said here, in the sense that it's almost as if, and I don't know this for a fact, I'm just speculating, it's almost as if Gould has gone to Ciraldo and said, look, just talk about Luai like this to distract the media, make the media think you might be half interested in Luai while we're really going after our target, which is what you were talking about, John.
Their actual halfback.
Yeah. So distract the media, get them talking about, just say this about Luai. The media will focus on that while we're focusing on our actual target.
There's somebody following Phil Gould around everywhere with their phones, so
he probably has to resort to these sorts of tactics. Look, I if that's what's going on, John, I get it, but we're still allowed to judge Ciraldo for what he says publicly, and he says he won't poach. Give me a break. You're the Bulldogs coach. If it's in the Bulldogs' best interest to sign Luai, then you go out and sign him, regardless of whether he wants to stay at Penrith or not. Yeah, that's your job now, Cameron Ciraldo.
If he's the best choice for the position, then
you sign him.
But he's going to go to the Tigers anyway. Luai watch will continue. Yes, probably for the next year. It could also be a trick that Ivan Cleary and Jerome Luai are playing on everyone as well. Jerome Luai is just going to stay there, and they've just been messing with every other team to make it so they can't build their team properly and keep Penrith at the top. Hey, I don't know how manipulative all these guys are, actually.
Well, Penrith are the best in the business, so and that's not just on the field. That they're very smart, very savvy in other areas, and it could extend.
Fully be that. All the social media posts could be I don't know, how deep you want to go into conspiracies of rugby league, but how deep you can go without sounding like a crazy person. But it could also be that Jerome Luai is actually just staying at the Penrith Panthers, and all of this stuff is just silly buggers to distract from, to make people chase other players.
Yeah, it's very interesting, John.
Yeah. Alex McKinnon is talking about our favourite player, Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah, he said he thinks South should move Latrell into the halves if they want to avoid a repeat of their terrible fade out in 2023, John, where, as we've said, they led the competition after 11 rounds and missed the top 8.
Nope. Nope.
Clearly you don't agree with Alex McKinnon, John.
You think Latrell Mitchell is a half? Who's South Sydney's halfback and 5'8"?
Oh, well, Cody Walker, 5'8", Lachlan Ilias, halfback. Ilias replaced Adam Reynolds.
You're going to move Cody Walker, who is a flog at the Flower Scientist.
So McKinnon saying they should move Walker to halfback and put Latrell
Cody
at
Walker's
5'8".
not a halfback. He's a 5'8" at best.
I tend to agree, John. I think with Latrell, it's all up here.
Yeah.
I don't think with him.
You know
it's not about his position.
You know what I reckon they should do with Latrell? Move him to the centres because that's his best position. You know, that's actually his best position.
So you don't think they should worry about the fact they're spending $1 million a year on him? You don't think? You think they should just go, well, that's his best position. Play him in his best position.
You chuck him in there that. I feel like South's made that same mistake with Greg Inglis, and Latrell Mitchell gets a lot of comparisons to Greg Inglis. Greg Inglis's actual best position was 5'8", in my opinion. Okay, he won a Clive Churchill medal at 5'8".
Yeah, he did, yes.
You know, in a cheaty team, but he still did, right? And I honestly think that's Greg Inglis's best position because Greg Inglis played best when he was touching the ball as much as possible because he is that perfect player that I talked about a few weeks ago where the first thing a half should do is run. The second thing they should do is pass if they can't run. And the third thing they should do is kick if they can't run or pass, right? Greg Inglis, better than any other player, I think, in a long time, had the ability to read run versus pass. Okay? He didn't have the best kicking read, and he had a very long kick, like a long punt. He wasn't the best ball. He didn't have the best bomb. He foolishly kicked field goals when they're 2 behind. But his ability to read the line and know when to run, even because one of the reasons was because he had such a good fend and he was such a big lad. Small gaps that other halves might not have been able to get through, Greg Inglis had the confidence and ability to get through. Latrell Mitchell isn't a good fullback because I find his positioning in attack and defence as a fullback is often out.
Well, there were times this year where he just wouldn't chase for
Exactly,
players.
but because he was out of position and his support play is not the best for a fullback, but his wind up and his angles that he runs are brilliant for short stints, short runs, to create line breaks and offloads. And that's more of a centre than a fullback. And you can spend $1 million on a centre and build your team around a centre if you leave them in centre. Okay? It means, the majority of your plays are going to go that way. And every other team knows it. But there's a thing in combat sports, right, where it's the easiest example is in there's a jiu-jitsu tournament called the Eddie Bravo Invitational, and in one of them it was Craig Jones, an Australian champion, Australian top tier, one of the best in Australia. In the EBI Invitational, in the EBI tournament that he was in, he spent in 5 matches about 6 minutes on the mat because what he would do is he would walk out, he would sit down, he would grab an ankle, invert and heel hook. Okay, now all of the fighters leading up knew that's exactly what he was going to do. Not a single one of them could stop him because he was so much better at the attack than they were at the defence. And that's like with Latrell Mitchell, he is so much better at attack at centre than most teams are, like teams, not individuals, teams are at defence. That's why you can build a team around Latrell Mitchell in centre because every team will know you're going to go to Latrell for the majority of your important attacking plays. But he is so good at centre, it won't matter. He'll be able to shut down that defence. They try to move him to fullback and 5'8" and stuff because of his price tag. But like I said, you can build a team around $1 million centre. You can't just pay $1 million for a centre. Okay, like you can't just go like Dane Gagai is a strike centre, really, really good, good at defence, origin player, Australian player. He's not $1 million centre that you build a team around. Even like Joey Manu, I don't think is $1 million centre you build a team around. I said that before about the thing with the Dragons. Guys like Greg Inglis, if he was actually a centre, was $1 million centre you could build a team around. Mark Gasnier, Latrell Mitchell, $1 million centres you could build a team around. And yeah, I think they should move him back to centre and build a team around him. Everything else on the other side is highly defensive. Everything in Latrell's side is majority attack with a good back rower feeding him so he can cut those angles. They do really well. Moving into the halves is pointless given the halves they have. Like neither Latrell Mitchell or Cody Walker is a halfback.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is Ilias hasn't really, and again, this, I guess it's got nothing really to do with Latrell, but Ilias hasn't really fired at halfback since.
But Latrell Mitchell's not a halfback.
Yeah. But that's not to say that the solution is. That's the thing. You don't just move him there because Ilias isn't working there. You find another solution to the problem.
You find a halfback, right?
Yeah.
You don't move Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker is not a halfback either. It's like Alex McKinnon. He actually, like, a lot of the time I agree with a lot of the stuff he says, but also I find sometimes he says these like crazy left field silly things that are just not a good thing.
He also said, he thinks Jack Whiten should play fullback, McKinnon. He thinks that Whiten at fullback would start their sets off right, and he thinks that would be beneficial. I mean, Whiten, he is, I think he's in his early 30s now. So him playing at fullback, the riggers are playing fullback.
He's just centre on the other side.
Yeah.
Because the thing with Jack Whiten, his defensive organisation and defensive reads are really good. And with a good back rower and winger to back him up, he could be that other side. And Jack Whiten also has the ability to offload and run those angles.
I guess if you move Latrell into the centres, well, who do you put at fullback? Because they used to use Blake Taft there a bit, but he's gone to the Bulldogs now. So
I don't know who else.
So I guess that's the issue is if you move Latrell.
Dane Gagai is Dane Gagai still at the Rabbitohs? Or no, he's gone to the Titans or something, right? We can look it up. I've got internet.
So wasn't he at Newcastle, John? Sorry.
Oh yeah, he's at Newcastle. Yeah, Newcastle. So
Newcastle, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know who you'd move to fullback, but that's a better solution.
That's
a better solution than moving Latrell Mitchell to 5'8" or halfback. Because you got to remember, moving to halfback, he's definitely not a halfback. Moving to 5'8", that means Cody Walker goes to halfback. Cody Walker definitely isn't a halfback.
You don't just play players in positions because you got no other solution. You pick players in their best positions, and then if there are other gaps, well, you find other ways of filling them.
Exactly. So it's a terrible idea, I think. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this person's name.
Good point of discussion anyway, John.
You can go.
Yeah, Olakau'atu, according to Danny Weidler of Channel 9, John. Haumole Olakau'atu's re-signed with Manly on a long-term deal. An 8-year deal worth $1 million a season, John. So, and, we talked at the time, I think it was back in August, John, we talked at the time about this 2024 Manly salary cap squeeze. And at that time, we thought Olakau'atu was only on 600,000. Now he's gone to $1 million. They've already got Daly Cherry Evans on 1.2 million. Tom Trebojevic 1.15 million. Jake Trebojevic 950,000. Josh Schuster, if you can believe it, on $800,000 a year. Luke Brooks on $660,000 a year. Now Olakau'atu on $1 million a year, John.
If Anthony...
Do Manly have any sort of restraint with their salary cap spending? It's just out of control, John.
Anthony Seibold is a good coach. He would have spent this whole year solving this problem. Is what I said, 1 week ago? On the who is the most overrated coach?
He was your most overrated coach.
If he was a good coach, he would have... Everybody knows this is Manly's problem. They don't know how to manage their salary cap. And
this is out of control spending, John.
So who has the salary sombrero now? What's a Manly thing? Salary bucket hat?
Yeah.
They got the salary bucket hat going on over at Manly.
Just going through that, John. So 1.2, 1.15. That's 2.35, and then you got about another million. I'll say.
So you just got
3.3, and then 4.1, 5.1 with Olakau'atu, and 660 for Brooks. What's that? 5.7 million on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players. It doesn't leave much left, John.
Yeah, for your other 24 players.
Yeah. Tell you what, John, I wouldn't want Manly running my personal finances, that's for sure.
No. They'd put everything in, I don't know what a bad stock is, to be honest. Don't play the stock market.
What, poker machines?
They put everything in the poker machine.
Yeah.
So I saw this as well. Like, I actually saw this last week and I forgot about it because it was just such a side mention type thing. But it's come up again. The ARLC, led by Wayne Pearce, is looking to change Origin eligibility. So Ben Smith just come up and he's fighting his first fight. My man Deepwater Performance, they're going hard at each other.
You got the stream going, John.
Yeah. So the ARLC, led by Wayne Pearce, is looking to change Origin eligibility to include the allowance for Tier 1 nations as well. Now, at the moment, Tier 2 nation representatives can play Origin. I also, just to clarify, I found out Tier 1 has nothing to do with whether you win or lose. It's to do with the resources you allocate to your nation as a squad. That's how Tonga got into being a Tier 1.
Right, okay.
It's
all very complicated, John.
Yeah. So it would mean that British, New Zealand and Tongan players are allowed to play for Origin, with Brent Tate being the most notable person that is like absolutely horrified by the idea. Now, my thoughts are that if you're going to allow Tier 2 players to play in there, you should allow Tier 1 players to play as well. It's kind of like weird that you would only allow certain countries. You know, like these are people who play for other countries. And so in reality, you probably shouldn't be allowed any countries.
Yeah, John, I mean, state of origin, it means state of origin, John. The state you're from is who you play for. I mean, I would have thought it's a lot easier to just go, right, were you born in New South Wales or Queensland? All right, you play for where you were born. That's it.
Well,
done.
now it's...
And then everybody knows what the situation is.
Well, they changed it to accommodate for Greg Inglis to allow him to play for Queensland. They actually changed the eligibility for him, so now it's
a lot easier to just go, well, where were you born, New South Wales or Queensland? All right. And if you're not born in New South Wales or Queensland, you don't play state of origin. It's very simple. Yeah. Very straightforward.
So either ban them all or let them all in is my opinion. Like, it's just weird to have the thing. And
yeah, that's fair, saying it can only be certain countries and not others. Yeah. I get your point.
Just ban them all, let them all in. But
the concept is called state of origin. It means which state are you from.
I would love to see guys like, it was Sam Burgess, I wish. Because Sam Burgess technically, and all of the Burgess boys technically qualified for New South Wales. So, when they were moving back to England and when Sam Burgess was retiring, I always thought like he should change his eligibility and play Origin. It's like, yeah, do that. But it's just a bit dodge actually, the way it all works. Anyway,
I think Brent Tate's got a point there though, John.
Yeah, well that's what I mean. Like he's horrified because it's the same as you said. Like it's state of origin. It's not not anything else. But on to we got a new name. Bridget John's given us a new name. I actually like this one. Honestly, it's just our opinion, guys.
That's a good one actually, because that means we can do other sports as well. Yeah. I've got another sport in mind for our next podcast.
Awesome. John. So honestly, it's just our opinion, guys. And this week we're doing name your NRL dream team full of your favourite players from any era.
Yep.
Not necessarily the best players, your favourite players.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yep, sure. Yep. So I've named my 17. Mm-hmm. Starting with Clint Greenshields as played for the Dragons. Yep. He's from Coffs Harbour, which is where the mother of my oldest son is from. He actually went to school with her. It's funny. But I always loved the way he played. He threw himself at the line on every return. It was really hard for them to capture him in goal. That was one of my favourite things about him. He would do whatever he could whenever he had the ball to get out of the in goal.
Yep.
And he ended up moving to Catalans, which is my other favourite team.
They're very solid footballer, yeah.
And then he ended up playing for France due to eligibility rules as well. So France was my second team in one of the World Cups. Then my wings were, it's quite funny, both the shortest wingers ever. So the first one was Jason Nightingale. Mm-hmm. He's my absolute favourite winger of all time. So Jason Nightingale, he would always get attacked with the high ball, and I never understood why. I actually have Facebook memories that pop up saying, I don't know why people do this. Because he's safe as houses. He had the ugliest running style in the league. But he was one of the best wingers. And in I think it was 2009 or 2010 at the beginning of the year, he actually played every position off the bench. And at one point, he even played in prop for a couple of runs. He was such a versatile and good player, and it was like Wayne Bennett didn't really know how to use him. Then he got to go to the wing. My other winger was Haumole Olakau'atu, so two shortest wingers to ever exist. Haumole Olakau'atu's just a phenomenal gentleman, absolute amazing finisher, and of course his goal kicking is legendary.
Probably the best goal kicker of all time, John.
Yeah. My centres is a bit funny. Like Mark Gasnier was always my favourite player at the time. Yeah. I just loved the way he attacked.
Yeah.
And he was pretty crappy at defence, to be honest, and then he went to Union and came back better at defence. So that was really good. Yeah. And the other one was Beau Scott. Now, I put Beau Scott in because Beau Scott's one of my favourite players of all times, and he played centre a lot to back up Jamie Soward.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about him. He actually, I think he went for a whole year without a try at centre. He was the only centre or something that didn't have a try, which was funny.
Yeah, right.
But I loved him. I always loved him.
Yeah.
In the halves, I got Joshy Reynolds, who's my favourite player from another team of all time. Okay, I love Josh Reynolds. I loved when he kicked the ball into the ref. I love the way he played.
Smart play, that one.
I love the way he played. I loved how passionate he is and was about the Bulldogs. And I think it was like a travesty that he was ever let go. I was so happy they brought him back. Mm-hmm. And then Andrew Johns, enough said. What else can I say? Orchestrated a 70-32 game against Canberra. In the front row, I got two of the toughest men in the history of rugby league. Adrian Morley. Mm-hmm. I actually watched the Super League game where he went back to England where he carried 4 players over the try line from 10 metres out. Okay, beautiful. And Jason Rolls, who's the scariest human being on earth. And then for the hooker, I had Craig Wing because I thought that was always his best position.
Yeah.
I always have this thing with a couple of my friends, that Craig Wing's puffy cheeks. Every time we'd pick up the ball from a play the ball, he'd puff his cheeks out before he passed. But he came on in one Origin as a utility and changed the game and almost won it for New South Wales as well. So he could change games from hooker at any point. My back row is Greg Bird, which I don't know about Greg Bird, man. I always just loved to watch him play. I thought he was a ball-playing back rower who could kick and play make. Yeah. And I know he played at lock a lot, but I don't think lock was his best position. I thought he was like a ball-playing back rower. And Fitzy, who's a trained cage fighter, so how could I not?
Got to have him in, John.
And then my lock, I had Luke Lewis, who could play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 11, 12, and 13.
Yeah, you could have picked him anywhere,
yeah,
John.
Exactly. I was like, yep, lock, because he's a great man as well. Mm-hmm. So my bench utility was Ben Hornby, who I believe he deserved the Clive Churchill Medal in 2010, but it was given to Darius Boyd out of favouritism as opposed to quality of game, to be honest. Ben Hornby was...
why do you think that...
He saved a try. He set up 2 tries. Mm. Darius Boyd basically just ran the ball back well, and I think Ben Hornby did... if you watch that game, Ben Hornby's defensive positional play is what kept the Roosters out of the game. He was the man. There was a couple of times when there were kicks put in that Ben Hornby was there, and one of them where a kick was put in that was going to be a try, Ben Hornby came out of nowhere and dived on the ball, saved the try. And, he set up some tries, and, I just think he was a great clubman. The rest of my bench is Danny Wicks, who, he always cracked me up because he had the fastest 40-metre sprint over, in the league. He's a big fat dude.
He's a big guy, yeah.
Big fat dude.
Big man,
he wasn't like a jacked... He was like the Mark Riddell type fat dude. And he could also do a standing backflip.
So do you remember Mark Tukey, John?
Yeah. Like Georgie Rose kind of thing, There's some props that are just big fat dudes, and Danny Wicks was one of them, but fastest 40-metre sprint. He was apparently faster than Jamie Soward.
Yeah, very good footballer, John.
Yeah. And a standing backflip, and he was really, really good too. Luke Bailey, which I think Luke Bailey and Jason Rolls was one of the best front row forward combinations in the history of rugby league since I've been watching it. And then Mark O'Mealy, who I think Mark O'Mealy was born out of time. He should have been born in ancient Rome as a gladiator. That guy's busted.
You reckon he could have been a UFC fighter, John?
Yeah, for sure. But he wouldn't. His career wouldn't have lasted long because There was a story after he retired about how broken he is and he can't straighten his elbows. There was like X-rays of his jaw were released to the newspaper where in some match he's like, I literally snapped his jaw in half and then went in for a scrum. He's battled with Bryce Gibbs where he knocked Bryce Gibbs out. Not like by punching him, but they head clash.
Running over the top of him.
It was like a head clash and Bryce Gibbs is dead on the ground and Mark was just like, what's that?
And Willie Mason stood over him and off him. I remember that.
I love Mark O'Mealy, man. Like he was legitimately like one of the toughest people in the history of the world, and he should have been a gladiator. So that's my 17.
Okay.
I think I'd win 20 premierships if I could give it that team together.
I think it's a pretty good team, John.
So what do you got?
Okay. So John, my team. Fullback, Ben Barber. Who could forget that season he had in 2012, John? I think I'm biased, but in my opinion, that's the best individual season that any player has had, well, certainly in my time watching the game. Won the Dally M medal that year and almost single-handedly took his team to the grand final. If he wasn't in that team that year, they might have scraped into the top 8 if they were lucky, John, but he took them to the grand final. It was a great performance.
Yeah.
My wingers, John, I'm not short of goal-kicking ability. Hazem El Masri, I'm with you on that one, John. That's a crossover player who we both picked. He's number 2 on the all-time NRL point scorers list. Who could forget that kick to win that game against Newcastle in 2002, John? It's a phenomenal player. And not just, and I'm going to say the same about the other winger in a sec, not just a really good goal kicker, John, a very safe footballer, a very good winger in his own right. Everyone remembers his goal kicking, of course, but he was a very steady player, scored a lot of tries and never made mistakes. Just 100%. Like my other winger, John, Daryl Halligan. So my goal kicking is not going to be a problem in my team, John.
Out. It's all right.
I've got the 2 best goal kickers of all time in my team on the wings. So I can't forget that sideline conversion in the 1998 prelim final against Parramatta that Halligan kicked to send the game into extra time. That remarkable comeback from the Bulldogs. They were down 18-2 with 10 minutes to go. Came back, made it 18-all at the end of regular time and then won in extra time. So a remarkable career from Daryl Halligan. Number 8 on the top point scorers list of all time. Yeah, as I say, I think him and El Masri are the 2 best kickers of all time. My centres, John, Nigel Vunganer.
Oh, man, I forgot about that guy.
I'm going to have him in one centre position. In April 2002, became the first Canterbury player to score 5 tries in a game in 60 years. He was the top try scorer in the NRL that year, John. My other centre, Steve Renouf.
Oh, wow.
Some of my earliest memories of the game were him streaking away to score tries time and time again, John. My halves now, Darren Lockyer. 5'8".
Queenslander.
Always stepped up when it mattered, John. A big game player and a born winner. Consistently performed at a very high level. Rarely played a bad game. My halfback, Brent Shifty Sherwin.
Oh, okay.
A very underrated player. Had a lot of spark. Could turn games in his team's favour out of nowhere with a piece of magic. Without him, the Bulldogs don't win that premiership in 2004, John. Now, my front row, I've got another player that you had, John, Mark O'Mealy. I couldn't go past him. Very honest front rower. You always knew what you were going to get from Shrek. Always fully committed for his team. Another 04 premiership winner, John. Steve Price, my other front row, a very consistent, solid performer. Always did the job for his team. He was a real leader for the Bulldogs during challenging times, John. That 2002 salary cap scandal and that 2004 Coffs Harbour scandal as well. Had to have Pricey in there. Now my hooker, John, Michael Ennis. I loved how he always played the villain. He was always very entertaining. Captained the Bulldogs in the 2012 grand final. Played a huge role in getting them there in 2014 as well, even though he did miss that game through injury. My back row, John, Willie Mason. I hated him when he left to join the Roosters, but now that he's retired, I think he'd see himself as a Bulldog, John, and he works there.
He does. He's on involved there. I see him all the time.
He's on the coaching staff there, played most of his career there. He stepped up when it mattered most and won that Clive Churchill medal in 2004. Had to have Willie in there, John. My other back rower, Andrew Bobcat Ryan, and I've got him as captain, John, because he captained that 04 team to the premiership. Mason won that Churchill medal in 04, but Andrew Ryan would have been close, John. Made that try-saving tackle on Michael Crocker, which saved the game on the last play with the score at 16-13. Yep. So if he doesn't make that tackle, the Roosters score and win the game. Always a cool, calm customer. As I say, John, he's my captain. Another player I've got who you had, John, Craig Fitzgibbon at lock. One of the real good guys of the game. I had to have him in there. My bench, John, it's not a conventional bench. It is a dream team that will never play. So I've just thrown in 4 players who I had to get in my team, John. Jonathan Thurston, he was in that, and I know I've actually got him in there just because he was part of that 04 team, John. Played a key role in that game off the bench. I haven't got him in there for all
being Jonathan Thurston.
For being Jonathan Thurston and all the immortal achievements that he had. I've got him in there for what he did in 04, John. Josh Reynolds, another player you had, John. I had to have him in there. Gave his all every time he put on a Bulldogs jersey. You felt honoured as a fan to have him play in your 100%. Team, John. I'll never forget that back to Belmore game in 2015, the crowd all cheering his name. John at Belmore, it gave me goosebumps watching it. Played in the 2012 and 2014 grand finals for the club, and also, John, that drought-breaking 2014 New South Wales State of Origin series win alongside Trent Hodkinson, of all people. They were the New South Wales halves who ended that Blues drought. Another one, John, Brett Mullins.
Oh, my God.
My earliest memories of watching him score some amazing tries. He did a Billy Slater before Billy Slater did. Scored an incredible double kick and chase try against the Broncos one night back in the day. My last bench player, John, Petro Sivanasiva. Another of the game's real gentleman, a quality front rower, and a quality bloke you would want in any team, John.
You got too many Queenslanders in your team. I actually had Petro when I removed him. I was like,
because
strike
he's a
Queenslander. Yeah, the dirty, stinking Queenslanders.
Anyway, fun chat, that one, John.
Fun, yeah. A lot of fun. So our next, what was it? Honestly, mate. So it's just our opinion.
Yeah.
Something like that. I can't remember what it was. Produced on, but that's the name for sure. Honestly, mate, it's just our opinion. Honestly, guys. Honestly, non-gender specific human beings. It's just our opinion.
That's a very 2023 title, John.
On to AFL. So this is actually very dangerous for the Lions. First of all, I didn't know the Olympics was coming back to Australia in 2032.
Oh, you didn't know?
No. Because who cares until the Olympics is on?
That's the thing. The Olympics only it goes to whoever's willing to take it now. Yeah. There's no bidding war that goes on for it anymore.
And I only ever know what's on when it's on, not where it is and what it's on. Yeah, as I say, I'll watch the wrestling and I'll watch the judo.
The weightlifting's good too. For the ones who aren't on drugs, that is. Yeah.
Only the Russians are on drugs these days. But yeah, so the Gabba's actually being rebuilt, knocked down and rebuilt, starting in 2027 to accommodate for it, which has massive repercussions for the Brisbane Lions.
What they're going to do, John?
Well, they're not happy about it because, it's well publicised. They won every game there. That's actually that's one of those last standing fortresses in all sports in Australia.
It's going to put them in a hole.
So it gives them
5 years.
Even less time to turn around their fortunes and try and win that premiership, because it's going to be harder for them to make the finals in the years it's being rebuilt.
Yeah.
So
they better make the most of the few years we've got before 2027, John.
Yeah, and speaking of that, the SEN, one of our partners, ran a poll for fans on who will win the premiership in 2024, and overwhelmingly it was Brisbane. So 29.5% of people voted Brisbane, with Collingwood at 21% to do the back-to-back. Brisbane need to overcome that MCG issue before they're going to be able to...
Yeah, that's right, John. I mean, I probably would have had Collingwood first there, but there you go. 8% gap.
Yeah, it's a massive
Brisbane
gap.
29%, Collingwood 21%. I don't know how you put Brisbane above Collingwood, but anyway, there you go, John. Obviously a long way to go, and there's a lot of,
Well, they've got to overcome that MCG issue. That's it. If they overcome the MCG issue, they can win. If they don't, they actually can't.
And like we said, they requested to play more games there as a result. So good on them. It's It's going to be interesting. Obviously, they went down by the barest of margins in that grand final, only 4 points, John.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting. Looks like the fans think, well, judging by that, they think there'll be a repeat of the 2023 grand final in 2024.
So. Yeah, I agree with that. But, yeah, unless Brisbane wins at least once at the MCG throughout the year, I'm just going to say...
Yeah, they've got to address that issue. It's going to become a thing and it'll get in their heads.
Yeah. So, on to combat sports, deep water performance. My man Ben Smith has won his first match 10-0 and will go through to the next round in the IBJJF World No-Gi Jiu-Jitsu Championships. Which is more important than Conor McGregor's might be planning to run for president.
Yeah. President of
Ireland. Yeah.
I don't think that's really going to solve the problems in Ireland somehow. Sure.
So apparently there's 3 potential people that can get in his way. And 2 of them have already said they're not going to run. And he also said, because do you really want a UFC fighter? And he's nothing but a UFC fighter, and he owns like Proper 12 whiskey. Well, I don't think he owns any more, so like a billionaire. Do you really want that guy in charge when he said he'll be running a vote every week to make decisions as well? Which, in theory, that's the best thing ever, right? Yeah. Like if you run a vote.
Sounds good.
But do
people really want to vote on every issue? I mean, seriously.
Yeah. So
we vote enough as it is.
But as I said before, Conor McGregor says a lot of stuff and then withdraws it and deletes it and stuff like that.
That's the thing, John. I've got no idea how the Irish political system works.
I've got zero.
I don't know if it's similar to the American system where you need money to run for president, or whether it's like the Australian or British systems where, you get elected via a certain party under the Westminster.
Well, if it has a president, it's probably more like
the American system. Well, in that case, he might be a chance to him.
Yeah, because he's got $1 billion.
Donald Trump can be president of the United States.
Man, if you think Donald Trump is a crazy president, imagine Conor McGregor as a president.
I think that would be a whole other level.
Do you really want that guy going to like UN meetings?
I think he would make Donald Trump look tame somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Do you really want that guy going to like world leader summits and stuff like that? That's what the Irish public need to actually
think about. Imagine if Donald Trump gets back in and Conor McGregor becomes the Irish president. Imagine Donald Trump meeting with Conor McGregor about, US-Irish diplomacy.
It'll be crazy. It's just, that's what I mean. Like, that's the only thing the Irish public should think about if he actually does run. What will it be like when he's the face of he's the face of Ireland and he's going to go out and meet Donald Trump.
Then again, Trump would give him the time of day. He loves the UFC,
he does.
John.
It would be.
I'd imagine
they become great partners.
Yeah, I'd imagine at the moment that the US wouldn't really care about Irish relations. They'd have far bigger things on their mind, but Donald Trump would probably make it a priority if Conor McGregor was the Irish president.
Everything about Ireland would boost and they'd become major trade partners with America or something. It's bizarre. But yeah, I don't know how much belief you can put in it because Conor McGregor says a lot of crazy stuff. Anyway, on to tennis, and Nick Kyrgios is right. Like he's not gonna play, right?
Yeah, John, the Australian Open unveiled its main draw entry list for the men's and women's singles, and Kyrgios was a notable absentee. So I think now, John, it's becoming more and more apparent that he's just not going to play in the Australian Open. He'll probably be there doing some commentary. But yeah, sort of looking forward, John, he just doesn't seem very committed to it at the moment. You're starting to think, is he getting to a point where he's about to, hang up the racket, John?
I think so.
He's getting to his late 20s now. And that's the thing, you go, well, late 20s isn't that old these days for a tennis player. And that's true, but for someone who's not very easily motivated at his old, John, he's not going to be the guy who... I don't think he's going to be the guy who plays into his 30s.
No, he's not. I think he will... Now that he's a commentator, he'll move into commentating and that'll be it. He's made money. He'll forever go down in history as a notable Australian tennis player. Not because of his achievements, but because of his personality. Even some of his achievements, but he's never really achieved the ultimate heights. He hasn't won anything.
No, well, he got to the final of Wimbledon last year, but that's his best singles
achievement. I think his only achievement actually is the fact that when there was the big three, he beat all three of them. Yeah, like he has beat the three best tennis players in the world in single matches. Yeah.
That's true, John, but I think...
Might even be the best beat four. I think he beat Andy Murray as well, yeah.
Look, I'm not 100% sure with Murray, John. I'm not sure if he's beaten Murray, but definitely beat Federer, Nadal and Djokovic.
Yeah, that's what his crowning achievement actually is. Got to 13th in the world without trying and beat the 3 best tennis players of all time, showing that he could have been the best tennis player of all time. And did
make a Wimbledon final, to be fair.
Could have been the best tennis player of all time and just didn't try.
John, I think we're getting to a real point now where Nick Kyrgios may have played his last tennis.
I think so.
I think he might be about to retire.
And he'll go into commentating. I think that's it. Maybe helping Elliot and Hewitt get the Davis Cup popular.
Yeah, I don't know if those two see eye to eye.
No, they have a feud.
Yeah, they might be able to patch things up.
It'd be a way to get eyes on the Davis Cup if Nick Kyrgios becomes involved.
Oh, absolutely, it would, John.
But also on Nick Kyrgios, he's joined OnlyFans.
He has, John, if you can believe.
Can I buy a banana shot? I'm going to go check his thing now.
Yeah, so apparently he's joined OnlyFans, John. That's hot off the press this morning. I'm
gonna go look for him now. I've got an OnlyFans account.
He said that launching an OnlyFans was a no-brainer. That was the quote from Kyrgios. Apparently, John, his page will be free to access. There you go. You don't have to pay to access his page. He's going to offer exclusive content curated for his fan base, John. So there you go. The Nick Kyrgios story just takes another bizarre twist, John.
I cannot find his page, unfortunately. So maybe
he hasn't started.
No, it might not be indexed yet. It can take a while for it. So that's the thing about OnlyFans that people don't realize, even though it's it has a bad reputation. It also has other people. I have OnlyFans for a bunch of UFC and jiu-jitsu people.
Yeah,
I don't subscribe to any because I ain't paying. And obviously, all of the most popular accounts are naked women, not men, women. But yeah, I don't know how to search, to be honest. That's my problem. I don't know how to search.
There's never a dull moment with Nick Kyrgios.
Yeah, OnlyFans is if you. I had a guy the other day who asked me about he wants to start a video streaming platform, and I told him OnlyFans is your best option, to be honest. Like a subscription-based video streaming platform. But he said to me problem with that is I've got a bunch of children that will subscribe, so
I'm not getting into
that's why OnlyFans is annoying. But there's now also OnlyFans TV that does comedy shows and stuff like that, no nudity allowed. So there's comedy specials on OnlyFans TV. When you index Nick Kyrgios, I'll subscribe to you on OnlyFans. I log in twice a year, and then go back and read everything. Because all of those guys that I follow also rarely post. That's the thing about it. It seems like they're 5th tier kind of thing.
This is the thing, John. If you before Ash Barty retired, people in Australia only seemed to care about Ash Barty and Nick Kyrgios. And now Ash Barty's retired, people only seem to care about Nick Kyrgios. They did care a lot about Federer, but he's retired now. So Nick Kyrgios that's why I'm worried if he retires, John. He's very important for tennis in this country.
Yeah.
And keeping people talking about tennis and keeping tennis on the map. I'm worried about Australian tennis if he retires, John. I'm worried about it.
We'll have to see what happens if someone can come through.
Because the thing is, Alex de Minaur's doing well, John, with what he's got, but he just doesn't have that spark. He doesn't have that spark that Kyrgios has. No, he doesn't. He just doesn't bring people through the gates, John. That's just reality. That's the way it is.
You need to be a character, and in one-on-one sports, okay,
you need charisma.
Like tennis and fighting. To transcend the sport, the individual has to have personality. It can be a good personality like Nadal and Federer, and it can be a bad personality like Djokovic or Kyrgios.
You need heroes and villains, right?
Yeah. And that's it. Like Alex de Minaur is a middle of the road personality. It doesn't matter how. If Alex de Minaur went and won Australian Open, we'd celebrate, but we wouldn't care.
John, Alex de Minaur could walk down George Street and most people would not know who he is.
Yeah, because he doesn't have the personality. Colby Covington in the UFC is a classic example, right? So he was going to get cut. Okay, it's a well-publicised story. He fought in Brazil, and he was told before his fight, this is your last fight because you're boring. And you can go and find old Colby Covington videos about how he's kind of like Alex de Minaur. He has no personality. So he was told, you are going to get cut. You're done. Walked out after beating, I think it was Damian Maia, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu god. That's what they called him. beat him. And then into the microphone, he went heel straight away and said, Brazil is a dump. Everyone here is disgusting. You're all pigs. You all disgust me. And oh my God, it blew up. He got 1 million views.
Yeah.
And now that's what he is. He's the MAGA, Donald Trump supporting, trash talking, ultimate UFC heel.
Yeah,
and he makes millions and millions of dollars. But you don't have to do that. You can also be Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who is well loved because he's nice, but he has personality. So they have the bad motherfucker belt in UFC, which is a stupid belt. When they don't have a belt to have put on, they do this stupid BMF belt. And they always say Stephen Thompson should have the NMF belt, the nice motherfucker belt. Because that's his personality and he's well loved. Yeah. And in one-on-one sports, you have to have personalities to sell it. Tennis right now, Djokovic is... Alcaraz is a personality, But in Australia, we don't have... Nick Kyrgios was our last one. And what's going to happen is Nick Kyrgios... Bernard Tomic hasn't played for 1 billion years, But he stays relevant by saying stupid crap in the media and doing stupid crap in the media. And that's our tennis following, because personality. But
at least Kyrgios has a degree of charisma, John. I don't think Bernard Tomic ever had charisma.
Nobody likes him.
I think he wouldn't try in matches. There was nothing about Bernard Tomic that grabbed you in and made you want to watch. I remember watching him once. He played against Del Potro in the Sydney International final one year, and I went to it. Tomic just did not show up, John.
Wasted your money by going.
Yeah, it was a waste of money going to watch Bernard Tomic play. He didn't turn up.
There's there's other guys like Tomasi Kokonakis, who is Bernard Tomic from Wish. Yeah, no one's going to follow that guy because that's all he is. He's Bernard Tomic from Wish.
John, we had a situation with Kyrgios where at the US Open, he was playing against no-names in the early rounds. And this is somebody who's not from America and wasn't a top player, but because he's Nick Kyrgios, he was put on Arthur Ashe Stadium for the night session, the headline act, against a nobody, because people want to watch Kyrgios. Exactly. He's not even an American, and he wasn't a top player at the time. But that's the pulling power of Nick Kyrgios.
Yeah, and that's why you need fans to keep people, you need personalities to keep fans interested in tennis.
Exactly.
Deepwater Performance is up again, started his next fight. More social media trolls. So, driver's license to register for social media.
John, I'm talking about Australian swimming champion Stephanie Rice. She's decided to start a new life overseas in Dubai. Good luck to her. John, all she did was write on a social media video saying, and I quote, "Packed up my whole life in Australia, bought a one-way ticket to Dubai to start a new chapter, and I'm feeling all the emotions surrounding this fresh start. But God is good." She just posted, the last few months have been a roller coaster of emotions, which have brought about so many wonderful changes, which I'm excited to share with you as I start this new journey in Dubai. But as you can imagine, John, social media found a way to be negative about such a positive thing in someone's life. Someone commented, "Was this your third or fourth take of the video?" So someone had to say that. Someone else wrote, "Must be so hard getting great opportunities and flying first class." John, this social media, you're right about social media. It's the toilet of society, John.
It's cowards. It's full of cowards.
People just talking about how they want to make a fresh start in their life, a new beginning. And people have got to have a go at it, John. These people are such lowlives who bring people down like this.
They're cowards. And like I always say, they will never do it in real life. They'll never say it in real life. They're just cowards that hide behind anonymity. And that's why you should have to register with your driver's license.
Yeah, John, she won 3 gold medals at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, one of the greatest Australian Olympians. I'm really disappointed that, of course, she just went on that SAS Australia show, John, that was shown not too long ago. Yeah, look, good luck to her in her new life. Yeah. I'm just really disappointed that she gets ripped down by these social media trolls, John. Speaking
of social media, we got some great comments this week, guys. Honestly, it's quite a long one and we'll get to. Mm-hmm. On the scammers on Facebook Marketplace discussion, which we had about last time, the rape threats to cricketers' wives. Mm-hmm. We also went on a tangent about Facebook Marketplace scammers and basically social media being full of losers. So Richard Cheese, great reference by the way, said, "What WTF, the rape in brackets was such a curveball, because the snippet that went up was a discussion of Facebook Marketplace, and then it ends with something like, and then that's how you get rape threats. But you have to watch the whole conversation.
Sometimes you got to watch our whole podcast to get the context of what we're saying.
That's what the snippets are. On the most overrated NRL player, Robert Hastings on Facebook said Jake Turbo.
I think he was one of my players. So I think Robert's agreeing. Sorry, was it? Yeah, Robert. Yeah, I think he's agreeing with us there.
Exactly. Well, it's on the one that doesn't reveal the names, so it's like we're asking people who they think.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Well, so he was not to give it away, but he was one of our players.
And then Greg Phillips on Facebook said, Latrell first up, and I agree, really not worth more than $700,000.
So he agreed with us on that one, John.
Yeah. Now this is a long one from The General. The General made a couple of comments. So this is on the most overrated coach.
On YouTube, John.
On YouTube. I feel like you're looking at Sticky the wrong way, and I'm a Panthers fan. He's 1 for 4 in grand finals and extremely unlucky not to have 3 or 4 rings. Let's run through it. Wins in 02. 03, 1 cover tackle is the difference. If they score, they go up by 6 in the rain with 17 minutes to ice a field goal. 04, down by 3, Andrew Ryan, your man Andrew Ryan, pulls off an ankles tackle on Croker with a line open on the death. Conversion wouldn't have mattered. Like you mentioned, got the Sharks to equal first when they hadn't done anything since probably 1999. We'll never know, but had he stayed at Para, I could see their drought being broken by now. As for the Raiders, they were the red-headed stepchild of the NRL. They were that irrelevant, it's not funny. He made them relevant again. 2016, they should have rolled Melbourne in that prelim, but Butterfingers Edric Lee couldn't catch a cold. 2019 grand final trainer incident. Imagine how much that would have changed the game if Whitehead scored or they started with a full set down Roosters end. Then there was the 6 again. What people fail to realise about the 6 again call was, regardless if it was the right call, changing it or not, it took as the Raiders' opportunity to force a repeat set or possibly score off a kick. Don't forget, it was 8-8 with 9 to go at that stage, and who knows? A repeat set. Raiders got a whole set to set up for the field goal, but White and seeing the 6 again waved, then playing on not hearing the call change cost them that opportunity. Not to mention the Roosters scored the very next set. I know this is a lot of shoulda, coulda, woulda, and excuse making, but I'm showing you how unlucky he's been, and I'm about to show the flip side of another coach being extremely fortunate in their grand finals. So this is the General's most overrated coach. Robinson could easily be 1 for 3 in grand finals. Manly fans and players will tell you they were robbed in that 2013 grand final with numerous calls and forward passes let go. I mentioned the 2019. He also finished second last season, 2 minor premierships in second last one season, 2 minor premierships in 2014 and 2015, yet failed to even make the big dance. Had to recruit Cronk and Tedesco in the same season just to get over that hump. Hasn't fired a shot since 2019. He's my most overrated coach. I'd go as far as to say he's a fraud of sorts, as silly as that sounds, a coach with 3 rings. But like I said, very fortunate in 2 of his 3 grand finals, and he's been coaching an incredibly stacked team for a long time. He's underachieved quite a bit in that time with that squad, in my opinion.
Right, yeah, so the General there has gone into a lot of detail, John. He has. He's really gone deep into it, and good on him. We appreciate the feedback.
Definitely.
But there's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes in that, John. I mean, the reality is the reality. The facts are the facts. And I think they speak for themselves. Firstly, on Ricky Stewart, John, I think he benefits a lot from a lot of people just not really caring about the Raiders. They're in Canberra. You know, they don't have a big supporter base. They're not as scrutinised as the Sydney clubs. The Sydney clubs are under the microscope a lot. When he only lasted 1 year at Parramatta and he was out the door. I think if Canberra were a club that a lot more people cared about and focused on, he'd be a lot more heavily scrutinised than what he is.
Yeah, and if he didn't have that media protection that he seems to have.
Yeah, he's got a media protection racket in Sydney, and the fact that he coaches the Raiders means that, you know, he escapes a lot of the heat. That works in his favour. You talk about this could have happened, that could have happened, 1 of 4 in grand finals. Yeah, but he's 1 out of 4 in grand finals. Yeah. That's the reality. We can talk about ifs, buts, and maybes all day. And Trent Robinson's the flip side of that. All right, he could easily be 1 from 3 in grand finals, but he's 3 from 3.
Yeah. But he's not. That's
just the way it is.
And you talk about like he got Tedesco and Cronk to win the set. But part of being a good coach is recruiting well.
Yeah.
You know, you always say, like, it doesn't matter how you spend the money. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have if you don't spend it well. And the Roosters always recruit well. He did the same. Trent Robinson did the same in 2013 when he recruited Sonny Bill, Michael Jennings, James Maloney, and won the grand final then. Like, he just recruited and built a team, and they play well, and they play well on the big day.
What's that line in the ABBA song, John? The winner takes it all?
Like Brian Smith, you could say the same thing about Brian Smith. He was in, like, 4 grand finals, 3 grand finals, 4 grand finals, something like that. Lost all of them to Wayne Bennett.
2010 he was with the Roosters, wasn't he?
Yeah, so who is a better coach out of Wayne Bennett and Brian Smith? Because even in 2010, it could have gone the other way. There was a bunch of calls that went were bad. Like Dean Young's trial was there was a knock-on in Dean Young's trial in 2010. And those things could have gone that way. But the simple fact is the team lost.
Yeah, so certain things could have gone a different way in certain games, but reality is reality.
Yeah.
A win's a win, a loss is a loss.
And then on the team that you hate the most, the General, same guy. Keep him coming, the General. We love the comments.
Yeah, good on him for giving us feedback.
Talking, because in the team we hate the most...
Him or her, I should say.
Yeah, that's right. They, them, je. In the which team you hate most, mine was Melbourne, and I talked about Billy Slater being one of the major reasons, and the General responded, I remember an Origin game, he got up from a tackle, and before playing the ball, he swung his arm/elbow backwards, hitting a player in the face, acting as if he didn't know anyone was behind him. Hindy also said Slater was the biggest grub when asked who was. 100% agree with both of you. I don't remember that Origin game, but there's so many things in Billy Slater's game that I can't remember them all.
Yeah, and it's the one blemish on Slater's record. I mean, great player, great commentator, great coach, but he had this side to him when he played that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
And Tavita Wolfgram, on the same thing, which NRL team do you hate the most, he said, it will always be Manly, 4 exclamation marks. Followed by Roosters and Melbourne, 4 exclamation marks. A lot of people like Penrith because of the three-peat. You can't beat that, 3 exclamation marks. On your Tavita Wolfgram, I also kind of hate Manly. Like I said, I hate 15 teams. But who do I hate the most?
Yes, that's...
So you're a Manly hater, Tavita Wolfgram, Melbourne, and the Roosters.
Yeah. Ticked all the boxes, Tavita there. Great post. That's the best post so far.
So that's it for the week. On to the housekeeping. I just got to do a couple of subversion shout-outs because we gave away rash guards to every competitor. So anyone who wears it and tags us, they'll get a shout-out on the podcast. Victoria Singh, she actually missed out on rash cards. Come on, guys. Some of these subversion people took extras. There was meant to be one for everyone, but some of the people missed out. Don't worry. I'm going to work it out in the new year, get you something special that the other people won't get, and that'll teach them a lesson. So follow Victoria on Instagram. It's... Hurry out, come on. Hey Victoria, it's HEIVIKTORIA. And then Nick Bilton, he actually wore his rash guard on the night and he won by heel hook. It was awesome to see. So follow Nick on Instagram. It's Nick BILTN. Nick Bilton. He's a great jiu-jitsu competitor. So yeah, if you wear your subversion rash guard, shout us out. We'll post it on Instagram and we'll give you a shout out on the podcast. It does get seen by thousands of people. Don't forget the corporate box competition. You went up to 17 mates, can win a corporate box at either NRL, BBL or NBL match in Sydney. Obviously you have to be in Sydney. As I always say, if you don't have 17 mates, you will when you win a corporate box with 17 mates.
No problems there, John.
And don't forget to follow SmartB app on social media, on YouTube, on Rumble.
Did you want to do the...
No, that's
okay.
So at SmartB app, make sure you go to smartb.com.au and sign up. Get the tip of the day. In our tip of the day emails, we've picked 5 winners. I'm up by $40 personally. Bet with your head not over it, gamble responsibly. But sign up to smartb.com.au to get the tip of the day, horse racing tip. And it's, as I said, I'm ahead, up $40 right now. Hopefully today's one pays off as well. Because yesterday's wasn't, but, the last 5 have been up. So, yeah, that's it for the week.
John.
And we'll see what happens with the Sydney Sixers tonight. I'll see you on Monday. Dan.
Yep. Thanks, John. Have a good weekend, mate.
Bye, producer John.
Bye.